Hello humanoids, welcome to Halfling Hobbies. I'm Halfling Hannah, and when I first started DMing, I had a really hard time setting the scene, which is just a fancy way to say describing what the heck my players are looking at. I would get super frustrated because they weren't doing the things that I wanted them to do, and they would get super frustrated because they didn't know what the heck I was talking about. So I had to come up with a solution, and my solution was a 3-step process, and I have used it ever since, and it is really helpful and super easy, and so I'm going to share it with you today. I hope it gives your game advantage. So, here we go. Alright guys, I'm not going to overcomplicate this. Here are the 3 steps. Number 1, know your purpose. Number 2, write it out. And number 3, point it out. Those are the 3 steps, and this is how you use them. Number 1 is know the purpose. Whatever the scene is, it has a purpose. From the very simple purpose of going into a shop to purchase potions, or going into a tavern to get the latest gossip, or going into a dungeon to unravel a mystery. Whatever it is, it has a purpose. So you as the DM should know that purpose and keep that in mind while you are describing what is happening. Because your purpose is going to flavor what it is that you point out, which is the last one that we'll get to. But it is very, very important for you to keep in mind the purpose. If your players are going into a potion shop for potions, maybe don't spend 15 minutes on the wallpaper and decor. You can point it out, that's great, but that's not the purpose. If they're going into a tavern to get some news on something, it's not nearly as important to point out every single NPC in there that isn't going to have the news that they want. Keep it focused on the purpose. Number 2, once you know the purpose, write out the scene. Now, some of you probably just cringed. You're not really writers, and that's okay. For you, I want you to substitute in think out the scene, because I get that not everybody likes writing things. I love writing things. That's what I do. So write out the scene. I need you to think through what that scene is going to be like and physically or mentally write it out. What would you say if your players stumbled upon a clearing with an entrance into the Feywild? What would that feel like? What would that environment be like? How would you describe it to your players? This is an excellent practice to get into with even just random things. Sit down for an hour or while you're doing dishes, think through, if my players came to a river, how would I describe it? If my players went into this tavern, how would I describe it? And write down those things. It's great to have a whole bunch of them that you can just flip through or think through, but the more it is that you practice these things, the easier it's going to be to give those descriptions on the fly. It's really hard to describe something you haven't really thought about before. Have you ever tried that? Do it right now. I want you to try and describe to me an orange. Go ahead, pause this. Describe an orange without using the word orange. Yeah, not easy, is it? It's a fruit with like sections and seeds. Yeah, it doesn't flow very well. That doesn't work very well. But if you get into the practice of it, then you just can describe the smell of the citrus as you pull open that orange. You can describe the feel of the oils, the way that the white membrane clings together as you pull apart a section of it. There's a big difference when you are in the practice of describing something versus trying to do it on the fly. Practice makes perfect, and if you write it down, then you can refer to it without having to rely on your brain that's all crazed up on Monster and no sleep. Is that just me? It's probably just me. The reason I know this works is because I've seen the pros do it. Matt Mercer, when he's describing a city scene or something like that, he's reading it. He's written it down already. All those books back there that are pre-written adventures, I'm so sorry, my accent came out. That are pre-written adventures, they all have a little area that says read this when you go somewhere new, when you enter a new location. Take a page out of their book and do that for your own homebrew, or pay attention to those if you're running a pre-written adventure. They're very, very helpful. And then last of all, number 3, point it out. What exactly are you pointing out? I always make sure to point out 3 important details that apply to your purpose and 3 sensory details. Now, your senses, you have 5 basic ones, but you have more than just that. You also have a sense of time, a sense of safety, a sense of someone watching you, or proximity of people. All of these things are senses as well that you can choose from. Choose 3 to make your world much more engaging and give your players what's called anchor senses, something that anchors them into that room and that environment that they can pull off of. But also your 3 important details. Especially with theater of the mind. What you point out is what your players are going to interact with, because they don't know it's there unless you tell them. So if you tell them specifically that there is a goblin patron in the corner of the tavern, they are likely going to interact with that patron because they know that they are there. So point out the things that are important both to your purpose and to your plot. You want your players to interact with someone? Let them know that they're there. You want them to know someone's super shady? Point them out as super shady. You really have to just point it out to your players if you want them to interact with something. And that is also important even if you're using maps or terrain, because just because there's, this cool little environment here, they don't know anything about the NPCs or the things that are going on in that environment. So you're still going to have to point it out. And those are the 3. I started doing those 3 things and it became so much easier for me to set the scene for my players. My players were no longer confused and I wasn't nearly as frustrated. So I highly suggest maybe give that a try. If you want to go over the top and set the scene even better, I suggest adding in music. Music is a great and simple way to up the ambiance of an environment and a situation. I use YouTube. You can use whatever music app that you like. They even have ones like DJ. I really like that one where you can mix sounds in with your ambiance as well. It's really cool. Check out my video on apps that I actually use if you want to see more about that. Also, if you want this done for you, you want side quests or one-shots that have all of this stuff done for you, I have those over on Patreon, and I would love, love, love to have you on Patreon. So, head over there. And there's a link down below. You just click that right there. Also, maps. Maps are a great way to set the scene as well, which, there's not a lot of places that do not just battle maps. So you have battle maps, right, of a small location, but it's really hard to set a full cityscape using a battle map, which is why there is the Wanderer's Guide, a partner with this channel. The Wanderer's Guide is an excellent and beautiful way to set the scene and ambiance for your players. They've got some incredible maps like this that do most of the work for you, honestly, because they are gorgeous. And then you can set the scene with the smells and the sounds and the different things that you see there. And then terrain, that was the other one. If you want to up it again and you are a physical crafter, then terrain is a great option for that, but still make sure you use your 3 steps. All right, some thank yous real quick. Thank you to my incredible patrons. You guys are wonderful. If you want lots of DM resources, head on over to Patreon. We also have a summer of one-shots going on right now. So if you sign up as a Halfling adventurer or above, you get access to our Discord where we will be running one-shots all summer long. Big shout out also to my 2 partners for the channel, Woodworks Gaming, who create these beautiful and incredible dungeon vaults. DM vaults and player vaults. They are on Kickstarter right now. They are incredible. Can't recommend them enough. Got a full video about them if you want to check that out. Love you guys. And also the Wanderer's Guide, who's been a partner with us for a while. We are doing one-shots using their maps that will also be available over on Patreon. Love all you guys. Thank you so much for your support. And until next time, my friends, may your game have advantage. It's Halfling Hannah here, signing out. Alright guys, I'm not gonna overcomplicate that. This. Words.